I would like to say thank you to everyone who is present here today to hear me talk. And I also like to say thank you for inviting me for the Great Lives lecture, to be part of this great initiative, and also to just basically share my story and seek to inspire other people as well, and also seek to inspire like, other people who have interest in botany. And so I think that would be a lovely thing to see. So of course, there's been a bit of introduction. So I did my undergrad in Nigeria. So I have a BSc in plant science. And so I went on to do my master's in plant diversity in the UK. And also I'm currently doing my PhD majoring in rangeland ecology and watershed management at the University of Wyoming. And so, yeah, it's been a journey for me. So going into it, yeah, so I've titled this talk Botanical Journey. And the picture on the slide here, we have, I think, a Parthenocissus. So this was actually taken from the University of Reading. I took this picture, I think, probably my last few days at the University of Reading. And I got the help of Dr. Alistair in picking or having a name for this particular species. So it's Parthenocissus, and it's kind of, I think, appropriate in this scenario because it shows like, the root on a journey, just spreading through the walls, and in such a difficult place to grow, for plant to grow. You won't usually find, a lot of plants adapted to growing on the walls. And so this is quite relatable to my botanical journey. And so I felt it necessary to include this particular picture in the first slide here. And of course, you can connect with me for those who are on Twitter with my Twitter handle here showing on the screen. If you'd like to probably ask questions like beyond this lecture, or you'd like to get in touch, you can do that via Twitter. So I move on to it. So all right. So I'll be discussing like the content of my talk would also be based on botanical terminologies. And so I've divided my journey into like botanical terms to sort of relate, and the processes and plants, as well as my journey into botany, and put them into this segment related to like botanical terms. Sorry. All right, so I'm starting from here. This is looking at seeds, and yeah, it's a seed of Chrysopogon aciculatus, and I was doing a bit of propagation while working as there was this thing in my undergrad where we had to do like a student work experience, and so I was working. I had my experience at an horticultural firm, and so Chrysopogon aciculatus was being propagated by it was majorly using the vegetative means of propagation. So I was wondering, like, this plant does produce seeds, and a lot of seeds, and I'm wondering why can't they just depend on seeds rather than using vegetative propagation? And so I went on in my own little quest to just find out if the seeds were viable, and and that's why I set up this, what I would call probably a mini experiment to find out. And so I did that, and I found like 95, after 2 days, there was like 95% germination. I was like, oh, wow, we could use this. And so that was, I had like this picture then, I think that was like 2015. And so what I'm trying to bring out here is that, when you look at seeds, the potential and the information to produce an individual is like contained when it comes to plants in their seeds. And I think that is quite important and also relates to my botanical journey, meaning that there are various ways in which a seed, like a botanical seed, is planted, you know, in our hearts, such that, you know, we grow up having this potential to develop an interest in botany as a course. And so instrumental to that is my mom. And yeah, I mean, she, introduced me to, like, plants, because she had a farm, and then there she sort of, because we were together, and so we were in such a place where we learned to cultivate different types of plants, from vegetables to like fruit crops. And I learned to like break seed dormancy in in some plants to propagate. And I think this was a very good learning process for me. And I would say attaching that to, like, that was like a seed for me, in developing my interest in plants and in botany. And of course, like, this is Celosia argentea. This picture, I took it from my mom's farm. And so going into the farm one afternoon, and I found, like, pollinators on the plant. And I was like, wow, this is nice. And, fascinated with seeing one hot afternoon where I was seeing like pollinators on the plants. And I was like, wow, this is nice. And so this experience for me, I was privileged to have this experience at that age, because it was really a young age, I think about 9 to 10 years. I was then where I had like the experience, growing up in my mom's farm. And of course, one of the advantages is that you could easily just go into your backyard, or just a few minutes from your house, and cut down plants to eat, for food. I mean, you had access to like crops, and you could easily just access crops. And it's like a good thing where that, oh, there's no food in the house, so I could just go into my backyard and then get food. I think that was something interesting to see. And of course, one of the learning process is that we also got to learn, for me and my siblings, we also got to learn to like keep records and accounts.
Sorry,
and also
Josh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but there seems to be crackling going on your end, because I've gone through and everybody is on mute. Is there something near your mic?
Not that I can think of at the moment, but are you still hearing the crackling?
No.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Carry on. Sorry.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Just let me know when you hear it again, so I'll keep notes.
Thank you, sweetheart.
All right. So this is like fruited pumpkin, and so we learned, basically to make sales and keep records, as we make sales, because we're also due to my mom's farms, we're also selling farm produce to the community, and sort of like, in the community where you most likely know everybody, and it was something that, oh, they knew that, oh, if you want farm produce, go to this person's house, they're able to help you with that. And so that was like a very good thing, and learning how to keep records, even financial records in this regard, was also something I learned, while working in my mom's farm. And so this is a thing that has actually helped me, along the process, also in learning and also developing further my interest in plants. So that was a good experience for me. And so I think in relating it to like developing people's interest in botany or in plants generally, of course, not everyone would have the opportunity to have been, to have the experience I had while growing up. And so it will be important, like at this tender age, at this young age, we found a way to make, kids, have access to like, botany, probably maybe through different activities that are targeted at developing their interest in botany. Because if they are not aware or have those such exposure, then it's unlikely they will develop interest in such a thing. And I think this is one of the things that's quite important in looking at while we are trying to encourage people's interest in botany. So going forward, I mean, you would think that, having had such experience, then going into the university, it would be no brainer that I would just go for a course in botany or in even at least agriculture or something related to botany. But that was not the case, really. So I'm putting it to relating it to dormancy, where there is no growth at all, although everything the plant needs is there in terms of in the seeds, every information to grow is there. But the plant is still dormant. And so the seeds rather is still dormant. And so this is why I find myself due to challenges. And that was the fact that firstly, exposure in this regard was a barrier in terms of I wasn't exposed to, while in secondary school, I wasn't exposed to things like botany as a course, or I wasn't exposed to a number of courses you could do in the university. So I was really, and a lot of, at this stage, at that time, a lot of students were only exposed to major courses like medicine, pharmacy, even microbiology, because we had like a lecturer, a teacher then who studied microbiology. So we had a bit of exposure in terms of microbiology. But aside that, we really did not have much exposure. And so that really affected, the choices that you make in terms of what you intend to study. So initially, I didn't intend to study plant science or botany. So I was like, oh, I was going to study medicine in the university. And so this is one of the barriers, which I think, obviously, I mean, to some people, this might resonate with you, and to some others, it might not. But this is also, I think, an important thing to consider, when considering like people's interest in botany. That awareness might not be there, and that exposure might not be there. So it's important to sort of create an avenue to, discuss such things. And that's why I appreciate having been invited to also come here to talk and also to stimulate people's interest in botany. Then the other part is, well, societal pressure, which is also related a bit to like the economic values, because then you could not there was really not an example for me, basically of someone who like studied botany at the university and, probably went on to have a splendid career in botany. And so, of course, the thing you consider while, one of the things you consider while doing a course sometimes will be like, oh, what am I going to do with this course that I'm studying? Or what am I going to do after this time? And so that was an important consideration. And so, I mean, with the limited knowledge I have, I don't have enough, exposure to know anything about botany. And so it really affected my decision and why I didn't even consider botany in the first place. However, like after 2 years of like looking for seeking admission into the university, I was offered, I didn't actually choose to study botany, but I was offered a plant science course. And, after much deliberation and hesitation, I mean, I accepted to go on to study botany. And so this is where I had my admission into plant science at the Olabisi Onabanjo University to have a BSc in plant science. And so I see I relate this to germination. So this sort of begin the process of germinating and starting to growing. And so while studying plant science, there are a lot of things that I feel, cemented my interest in botany, and even went on to see that I continued, to study botany even at an advanced level. And so one of it is, while I was in the university, in my undergraduate university, I had the opportunity to go on with my advisor. So this was taken while we were on a trip to the Nigerian montane forest in northeast Nigeria in Taraba State. And so we went on field collection for bryophyte. And so because my advisor was working with bryophyte, and of course that's going on this field trip was something that I enjoyed. Like, I traveled to another part of the country that I've never been to, and that was because of botany. And so that sort of like, traveling, going places was very, an interesting thing for me and exciting. And so that sort of continued to develop my interest in botany. And so I had a lot of experience which contributed to my growth in such that, I met different people and, we had diverse means of transportation because the road was not, the terrain was quite a hard one, and it wasn't just a smooth terrain. So we had to like go through, you've seen the earlier slide, like to canoes, we passed through like this, we're sitting on a cart attached to the back of the tractor because the road was not good. So we're sitting there, and it was a lovely experience for me, but it was like a different experience. And so having that experience, that wealth of experience there, sort of like, of course, there was no brainer for me. I was like, oh, I will continue to go in the part of botany and pursue my interest continually in botany. And so one of also the things that this experience did for me was that I was able to see some of the things we were being taught in class on the field. And I think that's one of the things that is important, trying to relate to the classroom. Botany is not just limited to the classroom. And so trying to incorporate the classroom teaching to the field, to what they could see and relate with. I think that was a good one for me, because I remember that we've taken like some courses in like phanerogams and cryptogams. We're talking about ferns, and in one of those classes we did talk about tree ferns. And so going on this trip, I was able to see an actual tree fern, and that was interesting. This is the slide here, and this is a picture of my advisor, and then the tree fern as well. And so that was like, wow, this was interesting for me because I could now see and not just hear about tree fern and tree fern. I could see.
Sorry, Josh, to interrupt again, Sweet Pea. I have gone through and everybody is seemingly on mute as far as my system is telling me. Can everybody double check you are on mute? Because we are getting noise in the background. I cannot see anybody not on mute.
Okay, Tammy, you know what? I will just go off my screen now and try to check if there's anything I could do about it. Would that be fine?
Sorry, Sweet.
Yeah, I said I would just go off the video now, off my camera now, just to check around if there's something I could do about it.
You see, the noise has stopped now whilst you're speaking to me. That's very strange. So let's try again, Josh. You're doing great. We said we would wing it if things went wrong. IT.
Oh, yeah.
Wing it away.
Okay. All right. So I'll just continue. Thank you for letting me know.
It might be you. Who knows? Are you rubbing your hands around? Who knows?
Yeah, that could be. That's what I was looking at, probably. That's a funny thing anyway. All right. Going on. So, yeah. So one of the things I also did was that, I was able to add that sort of network with other researchers, like people from the University of Lagos and University of Benin in Nigeria, and also meeting like Professor Azel from the University of Canterbury in New Zealand. She was there at the Mountain Forest Project because she was heading that project. And so, as a young student, having this experience due to botany was a thing that I would say contributed to me seeking further interest in botany and going on to have a career in botany. And so in this regards, before I go on into this plant, I would like to borrow a quote from Dr. Hem, that's Dr. Jonathan Mitchley, who is also in this talk today. I'll paraphrase. It says that if you permit plants, what you need to do is just introduce people to plants, and plants will take care of the rest. And I find that with this plant, this is a Musanga. So this plant actually, from the prop root, actually produces drinkable water. And me experiencing this as an undergrad, because my advisor showed me the plant while we were going about on field work. And he showed me this plant and I was like, oh, so, this is interesting. I actually drank the water from the plant. And I found out that, I can be in the forest. Once I have Musanga, I can never go thirsty. And so, having this knowledge and having this exposure, it's kind of exciting and fascinating and shows that plants are really cool and they could, in themselves, once you know about them, sort of fascinate you, and be fascinating rather to you. Then another one is this plant, this Senesopalium dosificum, also called like miracle plant or miracle fruit. And so my first encounter with this plant was, it was also through my advisor, Professor Yeshiku. And so he gave me this, the fruit, and upon like taking the fruit, it wasn't sweet and it wasn't bitter. I was like, okay, I've taken the fruit. And so, but combining that with what we call gari, which is like a cassava grit, it was so sweet. And so we went on further to test it. He told me that, oh, if you take it with also lime, it would be as if it was sweet orange. And so I took it with lime, and it was as if I was taking sweet orange. And so that was like, wow, this is interesting and exciting. And so, because of the, it has a compound called miraculin, which sort of like activates the sweetness in your taste bud. So it's not as if the plant itself is sweet, but it sort of like activates that sweet part of the taste bud. And so when you take things like, when you take other food, then it becomes very, very sweet. And so I think this experience for me, it's quite important in my botanical journey and also contributed to my growth in the study of botany. And then this, I went on to now, I had an admission to the University of Reading to study plant diversity. And one of the things I would say is that studying plant science for me, botany or plant-related courses, I was looking for scholarship because I wanted to study outside of my country to have more exposure and to learn. And so it was a challenge finding scholarships that were targeted at plant courses or courses that are related to like botany majorly, especially since I had like field experience. I was looking for something that was more of like a field botanist sort of course. And so it was difficult really for me finding a scholarship that will allow me to pursue this interest. And so, it's kind of difficult. Most of the common scholarships out there, like you have the Commonwealth scholarships, were not really targeted at, this type of courses. And so it was difficult. But after much resilience search and like 2 years into like scholarship search, I was able to find the Felix Scholarship. And though the Felix Scholarship was really targeted as Indian students, but there was one slot at the University of Reading for an African or for other developing countries, but majorly they were considering African applicants. And so I found a course which was plant diversity, then MSc in plant diversity at the University of Reading, and I applied for that course, and then I applied for the scholarship to study plant diversity. And so that was how I was able to get into plant diversity at the University of Reading with a fully funded scholarship that took care of my accommodation expenses and tuition fee. And so, yeah, in the course, of course, there is need for adaptation because you are coming into a new environment. you're coming into a new education system, and there was need to like adapt. On top of that, I had to like learn at least a good amount of the British flora, because it was there was a lot of like plant identification that was involved, and I had to like adapt and learn these things. And here we're like in the herbarium, making herbarium specimens, part of the course and module. And so the thing is, there was in one of the first few classes, I imagine my excitement when I heard Dr. M says, "Oh, okay, today we are going to look at the plantain family." And I was like, "Oh, nice. Okay, at least I know what plantain is in my mind." And so I was like, "Okay, this will be familiar to me." But imagine my surprise when when the plant was shown, and it was like plantago that was referred to as the plantain, the members of the plantain family. And that plantago is what you find on the slide here, the third image as the plantago. And I was like, oh, is this plantain? Because I was expecting more something like what we will have like in the first two photos, like, oh, this is what we refer to as plantain. And so, that's the confusion that comes in when you're using like common names, because I know that as plantain. And, in the tropics, you find this to be what is referred to as plantain rather than plantago. And so that was a bit of confusion as a result of common names. Though it was also like exciting to find that there was other things called plantain regardless. And so in the quest of like adapting to this new environment I had, because, as plants as well, they adapt to their environment, to be able to survive. And so I joined the Botanical Society of Britain and Ireland. And in one of the annual exhibition meeting, I was able to meet John Poland. And we have actually, in our course, we've been using like the VEG ID, vegetative identification. The book is book with a author with co-authored with Eric Clemens. And so, meeting him at the BSBI was a fun thing. It was also an interesting thing for me. And also attending the annual exhibition meeting people who I had like other plants people who I had probably one or two encounters with on Twitter, but I haven't met them before. So I met them at the annual exhibition meeting, and I think that was an interesting thing for me. And I also participated in the New Year plant hunt, where I recorded like 25 species then at the University of Reading, because I was on ground then in January, because there was not a lot of like activities at the university then. And so I was there, and so I recorded, like I did my New Year plant hunt at the University of Reading campus. And so one of the things I would say that I also contributed to my growth are the staffs, the staff in the botany department at the University of Reading. And so, they were really helpful, to like develop and help me learn. As learning a new flora, it's kind of like, be a deep end, but they were really helpful. Like, this is not a picture of every of them, but just to say that they were really helpful for me. And I think, having such help or such mentorship for students will really be important and expedient in developing their interest further in botany. And so another thing I did while in the UK was I joined the Oxfordshire Botanical Group, and there we, went on. I followed on numerous field trip of biological recordings of plants in Oxfordshire, and so they were really helpful, especially Oli Prescott and David Morris. And so we looked at vascular plants as well as bryophytes. And so that was interesting for me as well, looking at bryophytes in Britain. And so, after going through some of these trips and, getting familiar with some of these species, that sort of also helped me in my degree, in my MSc degree at the University of Reading. And so that was an important part and important step, because I also had interest. So I wanted to learn. And so I was going about with this group, and then we were able to look at plants and different plants. And so it was a good thing for me, and it's also an interesting thing for me as well. And then finally, for that experience, I was asked to join the Reading Botanical University Challenge team. And so we went for this competition in February 2020. And of course, it's just about like 5 months into my degree at the University of Reading and 5 months being in the UK. And I was asked to, be a member of this Botanical University Challenge team. And I was like, of course, I accepted immediately. Yeah, I think I associated with that. I have like strong faith background, I believe. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter anyway if we lose, but I mean, I'm interested and excited about the opportunity. And I was grateful that I was granted the opportunity. And so I took it. And then we went for the competition, and fortunately we won. And so that was interesting. So the University of Reading won that competition, and I associate that with a lovely team effort and how that we were able to complement one another. And that was interesting, coming to Britain and then winning a Botanical University challenge for me. I was like, wow, that's good. That's interesting and exciting. And that was a good thing for me. And of course, that just accounts, I mean, the competition also was a way to foster people's interest and show awareness that there's something going on. They are botanist around, and I think that's a good thing as well. And finally, on dispersal, so the course of doing my master's degree on Twitter as well, I also saw a position advertised at University of Wyoming, and I applied, and I got in, and yeah, I am currently studying, having a PhD at the University of Wyoming. And this, these image were, with our lab group, we went for snowshoeing, and that was the first time that I was going on snowshoeing. So this was at the Medicine Bow National Forest, and so it was interesting. It was really, really snowy and cold over there. And so I think that was interesting. And so that was how I started my PhD at the University of Wyoming. And of course, looking at fruits. And so, I mean, one of the things I appreciate about having the opportunity to give this talk is that I contribute as well. This is a way also of contributing to generate, foster people's interest in botany. And so I've had the opportunity to talk at the South London Botanical Institute, and having this talk generated a sort of excitement about plants is something that I'm appreciative of. To have the opportunity to do that, I think is interesting and exciting. So, and also having to talk here at the Great Lives, people who are listening in today, it's sort of for those who need to have interest, who have interest rather in botany, that they should go ahead and find a way to continue that interest, to grow that interest, to foster that interest, and pursue what they are interested in, as regards botany. And of course, for other people who are not really studying botany, they can contribute by not discouraging those who do want to study botany, and also give them a bit of support and encouragement, which is, I think, while I decided to study plant science, I had the opportunity that my parents supported my decision, and so I think that's also important rather. And thank you all for listening in. I think I'll take the questions now.